New Year.
Happy New Year. Yep. And it's just about live on Zoom or on YouTube. It's redirecting. There we go. We're up. Yep. And there we go. Okay.
All right. Are you ready, Blair?
I am just how come that's not because it's ready to okay, good. I am.
All right. Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll start with a couple announcements. Welcome everybody to the first Blair Dunkley Experience episode of 2026. Just a couple reminders, welcome back. And Blair's got two podcasts available. If you guys have not subscribed for these, please make sure you do so. He's got the Mind Model Mastery Secrets podcast. You can find that on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. You can search Mind Model Mastery Secrets or go to youtube.com/Mind Model Mastery Secrets to do that. And then the Mind Model Minutes podcast up on YouTube, again, youtube.com, and then at Mind Model Minutes. And Blair is still offering a opportunity for you guys to get a free complimentary profiling session. This is an opportunity for you to meet one-on-one with Blair and be able to have a conversation in which you guys can identify some opportunities for you where you can develop some different maybe strategies and things like that based on some gaps that you may be dealing with to become more effective and make 2026 the best year yet. Highly recommend that you do so. To be able to get on his calendar for that, go to his LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Blair Dunkley 1, and then just shoot him a message saying profile, and then you guys can connect and set up that meeting. All right, you guys, as I mentioned, this is the first BDE of 2026, and we've got a really cool topic that we're going to be talking about later. But first, we'd like to welcome you officially to the 374th episode of the Blair Dunkley Experience, where we discuss mind models. Mind models are a collection.
376, honey.
Oh,
Yeah.
376. I'm sorry, guys. 376. My little first blunder of 2026. Got to get it out of the way. Done the paint. Okay. All right. 376. As I was saying, mind models are a collection of extensively tested thought frameworks, skills, and behaviors that enable people to transform their lives intentionally. Your host for this evening is Blair Dunkley, the creator of Mind Models. And we are Tim and Becky Graff, your co-hosts and certified mind model coaches, along with the amazing Patty McClurg. And the BDE is Blair's free gift to you and is an opportunity to learn, experience, and practice mind models in a safe, real-world environment. Mind models have impacted every part of our lives. In business, they've made us more effective and confident. In our marriage, they've helped us resolve an 8-year challenge in just a couple of hours. And when we lost both of our young daughters in a tragic accident in 2020, these tools gave us the strength to navigate the grief, the PTSD, and the capacity to recover more quickly than we ever thought possible. Mind models have increased our effectiveness, resilience, and ability to keep moving forward without traditional counseling. And we look forward to learning with you tonight and welcome you to the BDE. With that,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
That's totally awesome. Well, we have some interesting stuff for you guys tonight. Successful micro behaviors. So one of the key things that I've been looking at is just how do mind models impact success? And how do we actually get that into ourselves effectively, in the most effective way? And one of the things that I've found over the years is trying to do big things all at once. And you may be trying to do some big stuff for New Year's resolutions or whatever. And I thought, okay, let's take a look at success in 2026 and see how we can build that success more predictably. Well, as it turns out, doing a lot of small things effectively is generally more effective than trying to do one or two super huge things and making that big change. Big changes are generally harder to do and whatnot. Anyway, that's sort of the theme of tonight's video, and I've got some other pieces for you. Um, and my throat is going. I had a bit of a sore throat earlier today, and all of a sudden I started feeling a lot of soreness. So, just warning you guys, I may not be talking that much tonight because it's happening. Anyway, I want to just share my screen here, and um, there we go. Optimize for that, and here we go. Okay, how come there's no? Oh, because there's.
Of BDE episode 376. We're going to tackle a huge topic, success, but we're going to do it differently. We'll look at how you can stop chasing vague feelings and actually start building a mental cheat sheet to get real results using a super practical system called mind models. Let's get right into it. You ever feel like you're stuck on a treadmill, just constantly chasing this idea of success, but never really getting anywhere? It's exhausting, right? And a lot of the usual advice out there, follow your passion, make a vision board, just want it more. It often just falls flat. It can seriously feel like you're playing a game that's rigged. But what if the problem isn't you? What if it's the game itself? I mean, we hear it all the time, don't we? Success is about achieving desired outcomes or just getting that felt sense of winning. It's always presented as this internal thing, this magical mindset you're supposed to somehow find. But honestly, trying to build your life on a feeling, that's like trying to build a house on a cloud. There's just nothing solid there to stand on. And here's the kicker. The data actually backs this up. The research shows that trying to rely on mindset alone is, well, it's almost universally ineffective. We're talking a success rate of just 1%. 1. So if you've been struggling with that approach, listen up. It's not you. It was never you. It's the method you were told to use. So let's just agree to throw out that old, broken playbook. We're going to make a really crucial shift here. We're going to move the entire idea of success away from some internal, fuzzy feeling and towards something concrete, something external, something based entirely on what you actually do. And the difference this makes, it's staggering when we switch our focus from mindset to verifiable behaviors. Things you could actually see and repeat. The effectiveness rate just skyrockets to 80%. This isn't wishful thinking. This is a tested, proven, repeatable result. So here it is. Here's our new practical definition from the mind model perspective. Success is not a feeling. It's evidence. It's something you could literally record with a camera. It's the proof, the actual proof, that your actions are working time and time again. And the best part? You don't need to feel motivated or inspired first. And this quote from Blair Dunkley, the creator of mind models, just cuts right through all the noise. If you don't do it, it doesn't count. I mean, thinking about it, planning it, feeling good about it, none of that actually produces a result in the real world. Action. That's the only thing that moves the needle. Let's just break this down side by side. The old way, it's all internal. It's based on how you feel, which always leads to self-judgment. Am I good enough? Am I a failure? The new way is all external. It's verifiable, and it replaces that heavy judgment with simple, clean evaluation. It's not about your worth as a person. It's about whether your actions worked. That's it. Okay, so how do we actually make this practical? Well, we use a simple tool that acts like a new operating system for your brain. It's how you can analyze any behavior, and it's called the 3 E's. Here's how simple it is. First E was the behavior effective or ineffective? Simple question. Did it move you closer to your goal or not? Second E, was it external or internal? Can you prove it happened in the outside world? And the third and maybe most important E, we use evaluation, not judgment. We just look at the action like a scientist looks at data, not as some kind of moral report card. And that's the real power of this whole thing. The 3 E's framework just strips away all the shame, all the stories we tell ourselves. You stop asking, why am I like this? What's wrong with me? And you start asking a much simpler, much more useful question. Did that behavior work? Yes or no? It's just data. All right, so now that we have the 3 E's to analyze what we're doing, let's talk about the actions themselves. This is your mental cheat sheet. This is the shortcut to generating real, verifiable success starting right now. First things first, we need a little reframe. Forget about building habits. That whole idea can feel huge, right? Intimidating. Instead, I want you to think about a micro behavior. It's a tiny, duplicatable, almost laughably small action. Don't try to write for an hour. No, the micro behavior is just open the document. That's it. You do that, that's the win. So, there are a few key strategies to make this work. One, you evaluate your day using the 3 E's to spot what's actually effective. Two, you make the tiny behavior the reward in itself. The win isn't some future payoff. The win is simply doing the action. And three, you reduce behavior friction. This is huge. It just means making the effective behavior the easiest possible option. Put your running shoes by the door. Keep that sales list open on your desktop. You make the right thing the easy thing to do. But as we start taking action, there is a very common trap we all fall into. It's one of the biggest momentum killers out there. It's called the why hole. And this visual just nails it, doesn't it? The why hole is where you go when you start asking, why did I fail, or why can't I seem to do this? It's 100% focused on the past, it loads your emotions up first, and it's basically a place filled with reasons and excuses that just keep you stuck, spinning your wheels. So how do you get out? Thankfully, there's a simple 3-step escape plan. Step 1, get aware. Just notice the internal feelings, the cues that tell you you're falling in. Step 2, get perspective. Separate yourself, the other person, and the situation to see things clearly, without all the emotional fog. And step 3, get effective. Use your 3 E's to get your focus back on the only thing that actually matters, the next observable action you can take. Okay, let's bring all this home, because the whole point of this isn't just to learn some new information. It's to start doing it. It's about building your very first tiny, verifiable success. Because here's the thing, success isn't some lottery ticket you find one day. It's a process. It is the physical neural wiring in your brain that gets stronger and more efficient every single time you repeat a small, effective behavior. This is the actual neuroscience behind it all. What fires together, wires together. Every single time you perform an effective microbehavior, you are literally rewiring your brain. You're building a superhighway for that action, making it easier and more automatic to do the next time. Success literally becomes your brain's default setting. So if you only take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Stop waiting to feel confident before you start. That's the old, broken model. Instead, just start doing. Start collecting those small pieces of evidence that your actions work, because it's the evidence that builds unstoppable belief as a result. And that brings us to the final and most important question. Don't think about habits or huge long-term goals. Just think about tomorrow. What is one tiny, effective micro-behavior that you will identify and duplicate? That's it. That's where it all begins.
There we go. Now, I do have one other thing that I want to bring to your attention is I am moving right there. So it's okay. I'm just going to share my screen one more time. Pardon me. And I'm not quite sure how. Oh well, I'll just do it this way. That's fine. Nope, don't want to do that. There we go. Got it this time. Okay, so I've been working on my book, Ultimate Mind Hacking. It's now version 2.1, but I think I'm likely going to rename it as a completely different book because I've been evolving it so much. And one of the things that I asked ChatGPT to take a look at, and as well as Notebook LM to pay attention to, is what were the biggest sort of collective changes from 2025. And one of the standout sticking points was the idea of the why hole. So it is such a block for people. But when I listened to and read how it reworded what I've said many, many times, it just hit me differently. It's a concrete wall. And why doesn't just inhibit change or slow it down? It literally prevents change. So it doesn't hinder it at all. It prevents it completely when it's a true why. And that is a huge thing that I wrap my head around. And I go, it is true, and I've said that, but I haven't stated it in such black and white terms. And that is unbelievably effective. But how do we have change in spite of being semi-trapped in that why hole? Well, it really is accidental escapes that we have. And I have a story where I was out at Matsqui prison here in Canada, out in BC, that is a super maximum security penitentiary for the criminally insane. It's where they put the worst, the Hannibal Lecters of the world, as it were. Anyway, I went there to present to the treatment staff, and they're all top end PhD psychologists and psychiatrists. So, what they said after I gave part of my presentation, they said, well, what we do, we work here on case studies. And they said, um, I said, sure, let's just, you guys share a case study and I'll go through that. Anyway, it went back and forth. This is what the therapist said. This is what the patient said. This is what the therapist said. Well, technically, inmate said, back and forth, back and forth. And then I just said, okay, excuse me for interrupting, but this is what the inmate said. This is what your response was. And this is the response that the inmate gave. And this is your response. And they looked at me, and the head of the department looked at me and said, this is a maximum security institution. You repeated or stated almost verbatim what he said and what I said. How is it possible that you knew that? Well, that's where I went back into the mind models and question concepts in particular. It was pretty obvious to me that the inmate was attempting to get a reduction in his medication. But early on, it was very clear, at least to the inmate, that there was no way that the inmate would ever get a reduction yet in his medication at all. But he didn't want an increase. So that's when I figured out, and what you shared, I'd figured out the subplot, as it were. And then these were the only lines, the only thing that could accidentally be done, but it's not accidentally, it's intentionally, because the therapist was asking whys, and the inmate was trying to respond with whats, but then he switched it to why-based reasons to minimize the chance of him getting his medication upped. And that when the LLM notebook LLM came out and put together these slides for me, the accidental escape, every positive change in your life happened because of your brain accidentally stopped asking why and stumbled upon a different question. You escape the loop without even realizing how you did it. What would happen? What happens when you get conscious of what that loop is and you do it intentionally? Neuroscience principle, what fires together wires together. Every time you ask the effective or right question and take action, you build a neural pathway. That's huge. You are building that neural pathway one small step at a time. Now, we've covered the success formula before, but I thought it was fairly important to touch on it again. The who, what, how. And basically, this is how every single success happens in your life, whether or not you're conscious of it or not. This formula, this who is almost always you. The first what is always the historical what, the second what is the plan, the action plan. The how is the execution of that action plan. And that's really all it comes down to in its essence, in its simplest form. Now, this is a deliberate blueprint to transform your life and can be applied to absolutely everything. Most people want to complicate the crap out of it, but I'm trying to keep it simple so people can make it identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. So the first step is gather the historical facts. Step two is create the action plan. And step three is execute in the present with how. Just do it. And if you don't do it, it doesn't count. And literally, the only thing that counts is what you do. And it doesn't matter whether or not you do it and you fail or you succeed, because failure is required for success. It's required because if you don't fail, you can't succeed intentionally because you cannot evaluate where you are, what you do, and the difference that that makes. And these 5 slides are just one chapter. Well, they make up a part of one chapter in my new book. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. And, if you care to share your feedback, let me know what you think. Um, but it hit me fairly hard and was fairly profound for me. Anyway, that's it. I'm passing the baton back to Patty or anybody else who would like to share.
Yeah, we're going to be focusing on success and the habits and the behaviors throughout the month of January. So this is just the first installment. And Brent, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Hi. So what is success to you?
Oh man. I can't, that was one thing I was thinking about over the last week is like, what? And I want to say I couldn't find what I wrote it down somewhere, but I couldn't find the particular notebook. But I have a sense that it's a little different than what, like now, than what I had before.
Uh,
So the success is like, so now in doing the little things and improving
mhm.
and then moving, being able to move those small steps and seeing that movement towards that result, that desired result. So,
Did you achieve your desired result?
uh, well, sometimes I did, but like that's just the definition. But like I have different ones now that I'm on the way of doing. So it's building that small, like this is a great one tonight because I am in that process of building those small habits and seeing the big result as it's large behavior, but breaking it down to do it. So adjusting the behaviors and evaluating those to be effective, to get that get that work done and moving those steps forward. So yeah,
So are
yeah,
you
Tim.
are you in a place where your actions, you perceive them to be effective? Are you able to evaluate them?
Yeah, I am. I'm in a place where I can see the ineffective actions and the effective actions, the behaviors, and seeing that what's a habit and what's a little more difficult to change to do something else. So which habits are a little more difficult to alter to build new ones. So which ones are have more of a hold
Mhm.
on me to that keep me ineffective that aren't moving me forward. Some of those are stronger than others. So
What
yeah,
gets in your way?
as in like
Well,
which habits or
what's stopping your success? You say some are effective and some are ineffective. What gets in the way of moving those ineffective things to effective things?
I would say it's some of those are longer habits that have I've been doing that behavior for decade a very long time. So it gets to that point where when I'm seeing a big picture and it seems too daunting and I place pressure on myself, then
So
I
what would
tend
you
to
say
start to
that
revert
is?
back to
Could you label that thing that you just said?
what
When
the
you start putting pressure on yourself and which sounds a lot like judgment to me. Is that fair?
yeah, like judgment, self-sabotage, and
Right.
builds up.
So
Like I revert back to habits that are ineffective and things. I start doing behaviors that are
so
holding me
what
back,
might
keeping me stuck.
so being well versed in my models is the
Hmm.
only reason I'm pushing you here. Where would you say that you are with that in terms of stopping your success? What is that?
Well, I'd say I'm in a place of judgment
Okay.
and
And so where
stuck
does that
in
put you?
what's that?
Where does that put you?
That puts me in the past.
Uh-huh. Where does that put
Yeah,
you?
maybe I'm not picking up what you're.
Not
Go
picking
ahead.
up
Go ahead.
what I'm
Yeah,
what
I'm
I'm
not picking
fishing
it up.
for, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible that you slide into a why hole?
Yeah, that's why I was I was getting there. That I
You're
just
getting
hadn't.
there. I know you were. You
Yeah,
were just skating on the edge of that.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
know you were.
And I want to build on this because I think you've
Mm.
done a brilliant job of getting us close to that edge of that Y hole. But if you can see that you're close or sliding into the Y hole, that also tells me that when I'm doing that, I am not actually functionally self-evaluating anymore because I'm not using the thing that isn't working as a guidepost of what not to do. And so when I know what not to do, I can stop and I can at least ask myself, maybe I need to try something completely different or something subtly different, but it can't be the same. And if I am sliding into the Y hole, even after attempting something else, then my direction is flawed. And that's huge. Then you have to sit down, figure out a brand new way to approach this and go, what might I do that's completely different? Short story for me over the holidays, I had two people that I met. Both of them looked at my website. Both of them told me, you need to get a new website. Blair, it's crap, it's unclear, yada, yada, yada. And I go, okay. Um, one of the meetings that I was wanting to have was not available today. And so I decided I would sit down and I used Manus AI to actually build me a brand new website. And it's mostly done. In fact, it might be completely done. It just isn't uploaded yet. So thank you, Jacqueline. So yeah. So we shall see. But it's a start. And then
Jacqueline.
we test.
Yes, we do. Jacqueline, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I just want to say, like where Blair just said, I just noticed something and it kind of tweaked something in me that I needed to ask a question, try to get curious, but without telling. But when he said it's a start, to me, I kind of got a little bit of a letdown feeling in myself because I'm thinking it's not a start. You're way not at the start. The start was the other website. Where is this now?
Maybe I
Improvement.
should reframe it as it's a new start.
You might reframe it, not should.
Yeah, thank you. I might.
Okay.
And but I will reframe it as a it's new data points which are not tested. I don't know.
Okay.
And
So,
that's how come it's a start. It's a
all right.
as opposed to, I think Tim or Becky said something, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Tweaking the old site, it's not tweakable. It's crap. So change it out. And I have the tools and the ability to do that now.
I'm just wondering. Well, in my mind, it's part of failing fast, falling forward.
Correct.
Whether it's
It
a
is.
new site or another, every single step is a different action, individual from the previous one, and what is going to occur next.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
I'm gonna actually hop on this with Jackie as well. Is Blair, you mentioned even in the video that failure is required. So it's not crap.
No,
You learn something.
No, let's put it this way. Subjectively, it's crap. Objectively, it's gold.
Okay,
It's gold
so
because it gives me data points.
So I'm curious, Blair, now that when you say it's a start and you think of it as a start now, comparing what we've just discussed, is there any shift in like maybe an attitude or a feeling? Is anything shifted?
To be perfectly honest with you, I have
I
not
only expect that.
I have not actually fully examined the website. I haven't even uploaded it yet to go high level. But I got a quick view of it,
Mhm.
and it looks better. I can't, well, I'll have to look at it. So I'm in the midst of rebuilding. So that was done in the last 30 minutes before I was coming on here. So
Well, that quick, hey?
yeah, that's
Okay.
that recent.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
I'm hearing here is a potential J curve of learning as it
Oh
relates to
yeah.
technology and different pieces, which is fantastic because it really is about what we're talking about. Micro behaviors show up in different places, in different seasons, and different perspectives, depending on how we choose to look at it and how we're speaking and communicating about it.
Yeah.
Right. So sorry.
I just say, it's interesting as I've listened to the discussion here, as we've started. Success. To Brent's point, success is something that is an evolution. It's constantly, we're reaching different levels or different areas of our lives of success, if you will. Like I think about, and part of in the video, Blair was talking about, they accidentally switch from the why hole into more of a what, the accidental. I think about in my own life, before I came across Blair, the mind models, I felt pretty successful. I thought I was on top of the world, so to speak. I was, doing very well in my life and success. I was like, okay, I'm successful. I'm doing really well. And then I came across Blair at an event, started hearing about these mind models, and I was blown away about how, the language patterns and the way I was thinking about certain things that I thought was success. I suddenly went, wait, I'm slipping into the why. I'm slipping into the past. I'm, holding myself stuck in all these areas and in so many ways that I wasn't even aware of. And so my success, if you will, went to a whole nother level when I learned mind models and how to think effectively. And that it was about the behavior and being able to, evaluate, compare, and contrast, and about evaluation. And suddenly the success went to a completely another level. And so I just thought it was interesting how, you know, the evolution of success.
Mhm.
And you can think you're at success, and then all of a sudden you come across something accidentally, or, and then it takes you to that next level, and then that next level, and that next level. So, anyway, that was kind of my thoughts as we were, talking about this first part of things, and listening to Brent, listening to kind of where Blair went. It is constantly a J curve of learning and reaching that next level of success.
And I'm curious, based on what you've shared and what's been talked about tonight, do we ever mislabel success?
Oh, yeah.
And how does that specifically impact our worlds? What does that do when we accidentally mislabel success?
Well, I think Tim's example is perfect because he was, quote unquote, very successful.
Mhm.
And then he just got a new way of evaluating himself and go, hold it, eye-opening moment.
Mm.
I'm not as successful as I could be. Jacqueline.
Well, one thing I noticed is I had a very um, focused view on what success was. And let's just, and it wasn't really, but just to make it easy, being rich, not necessarily famous, but so some people's success is being famous with no money. Or some people's success is family. And when I started to learn about other people's definition of what success is, because some people might say to you, "Oh, I feel successful," but they're referring to their family, the way they live and how they eat. They feel successful because successful to them is not how somebody else might, well, if I have $1 million in the bank, then I'm successful. Like it's different gauges. And when I realized that there are different areas in my life that I could work on, like emotional, physical, financial, spiritual, that type of stuff, then I realized there was a possibility to have more successes because in each individual sector, you can realize success. And so I may feel successful in some areas of my life, but not in others.
Correct.
But what that leaves me with is if I was stuck on successful, like financial gain, and I'm absolutely feeling depressed, but I visualize myself as successful, how does that motivate me to change? It doesn't, because I'm not real. I'm just thinking success is only financial. So what if I'm depressed? I just put up with it, because it's you are. I'm stuck. I would be stuck in that mislabeling of the potential of success. So
And
yeah.
you see that a lot in like Hollywood and actors and those kinds of things. A lot of
Mm.
times they're seen as success. That is like the face of success and what they are. And how many times do we hear, you know, they're yeah, yeah, all sorts of drugs, issues, suicide, like those kinds of things. I mean, usually they're extremely depressed. They have all these sorts of issues, even though they're quote unquote the image of success. So, to your point, Jackie.
And I think that as we examine success, to your point, Jacqueline, in our own worlds, I'm curious, have we sat down and thought about individually what does it mean to you? What
Well,
is
one thing. Oh, sorry, Becca. Do you need to? Go
I was
on, Becky. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I was just posing the question because, to your point, Jacqueline, you've sat down and had that realization. But for those of us here on this call and those watching on YouTube, it is a valid question. How do you individually view success? What does it mean to you?
Hmm.
And is your view of that potentially causing you pain that
Okay, too
maybe
many questions for me. Sorry, it's too many because I already had answers, and now I'm like,
you
and I'm losing the answers. Okay, can
what,
we just
what,
backtrack to uh like the success part? And I don't remember exactly, but I recall my answer. Success to me is really related to gratitude, and going back to the being in the moment, seeing the dew on the piece of the grass, seeing the sunlight trickle through a beautiful autumn colored leaf, whether it be yellow, beautiful red Japanese maple, or whatever. That to me now is a success. Where before, or I talk to somebody saying, oh, well, if you can be in the now, that's a success. They may go, what the heck are you talking about? Because as we're learning new things, well, as I speak for myself, as I'm learning new things, it keeps coming back to me for the now. And how I think on the top of my head is that I build success is being grateful for certain different parts of my life that I just didn't even acknowledge. I ate an organic meal today. I picked my own tomatoes out of ones that I grew. Like, really? You know, like I successfully made a fire and burned all of my green stuff from the yard. Like, I mean, I'm just getting really basic here, but that's actually not basic for a lot of people because they don't even know how to process their own waste.
Well, and you're speaking to exactly what we're talking about tonight of the micro behaviors. It's
Mm,
paying attention to those little incremental things that
yes.
ultimately lead to, the end result or that end success, if you will. It's breaking things down and noticing those small wins here and there is what I'm hearing from what you're sharing, Jacqueline. I
Well,
want to
that
turn
that
things.
helps me clarify. Yes, thank you.
Well, another one of the definitions that we have for success is that success is the demonstrable outcome that shows your behaviors are effective. So, Jacqueline, when you're looking at, successfully cleaning up the yard and building the fire and doing the things, having an organic meal, that sense of gratitude that you've woven into your life, all of those are the small demonstrable outcomes that show that your behaviors are effective. So, yes, that's Blair's definition there is success from a mind model perspective. Success is the externally verifiable evidence that your behaviors are moving you toward your desired results consistently, repeatedly, and without relying on belief, motivation, or mindset. So, yes, Jack.
So this word demonstrable, I've not really heard that before, but all I can think of is demon. So I'm kind of being triggered into
It's
this
kind
like
of
demon
demonstrating
devilish thing.
it's
Please give
outcomes
me a
that can be
definition.
demonstrated. We're not going into demons. Sorry.
Yes, okay. Oh, so it's demonstrable. It's
Yes, it's something you
demonstrable
can
or whatever.
see. It's an externally verifiable outcome, something you have demonstrated.
Demonstrable. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it's your accent or whatever. But demonstrationable. Is that a word?
No, but
No,
demonstrable is the
Okay, well
same.
it
That's what you're
sounds
trying
to
to
me
be.
like demon, and I'm
I
thinking, is this
know.
a good thing? It's triggering me. I'm getting so here's the label. If somebody said, "Oh, you're demonstrable," I would probably like not think I was getting a little compliment at all. I would be thinking, "Oh," you know. I
Some
just
kind
wanted
of
to point
demon.
that out because when you have that trigger, and we're talking about labels specifically, and I didn't know that word in English or have ever used it. So when Patty said, anyway, you got the point.
yes, thank you. Shannon, would you like to weigh in? What are your thoughts?
Down some of the definitions I really like, because it was interesting early on when you were talking about success, and my first question in my head that I asked myself is success in what area of my life? So it's taking something general that's a concept that we all, discuss and think about at this time of year, and winnowing it down to what is the most specific part of my life that I'd like to work on right now. What areas would I like to spend my energy on? Because and I fell into this whole, as a young person where I just was like, I saw everything. So I wanted to work on everything, and it was too much. And for me to make changes that I see evidence in, I need to winnow it down and focus in on a handful of things. There may be many things that are good to do, many things I'd like to do that I'm interested in doing, but what's appropriate as to time and place for the season in my life. What are my top 3 focuses, or, something professionally, personally, or recreationally. It's important, I think, to remember fun needs to be to be in there, and then the parts of our life that get neglected a little bit when we're really focused on achieving financial or professional goals or things of that nature that take so much mental energy. We really pour ourselves into those things. But, there are wins and successes for remembering to schedule a day off, for remembering to, celebrate your wins. And I really liked our definitions. I'm the one that you shared, and then Blair, your definition as well, that that is the essence of what we're talking about, the little micro things that build a happy and balanced life to the best of our ability. Because life will throw you imbalances and try to knock you off of balance, but to use the things that we know to keep our equilibrium, like that feels like success to me. And it's a sensation that you can build on once you start to see it and celebrate it. Then you can connect it to a feeling, like when we practice the feedback formula and some of those things, to kind of notice, where do I feel this in my body, like certain types of successes and different areas of my life. That's where my noodle was noodling.
That's where your noodle goes. Okay. Yeah. Jacqueline, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Oh, I don't know if I misheard because I had to pop out for just a moment. But Shannon, you mentioned balance.
Mhm.
And I all of a sudden I thought, well, I wonder if, and I'm going to ask you this question. This was my thought. Well, I wonder if overall success is balance, or does success exist if there's less than balance in all areas or the areas?
From where just in terms of the life experiences that I am recalling in my own experience, balance to me is going to be something very, I'm going to go back. I was in high school, and we were asked to create a budget in government and econ. And I created a budget based on my life experiences and what would feel successful to me and my personal priorities. And a large portion of that was colored by the fact that I was a very sick teenager, and I spent a large portion of my time trying to do holistic things in an age when that wasn't common, eating clean and investing in supplements and care that just didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. And I got a lot of negative feedback about my budget. Was graded poorly because it wasn't realistic. It wasn't, this person's idea of what a balanced budget. My life wasn't normal for, 15-year-old. It wasn't, I shouldn't say normal because I don't like that word. It wasn't typical. And
Very
so
good catch.
the balance comes in when, for me, the balance comes in embracing the things that are my priorities and how heavily do I weigh them in the grand scheme of my limited time and energy. And am I placing my time and energy, am I budgeting what I'd like to budget on this quality? You know, it's not necessarily everything is all even. It's, am I
Okay.
allotting my mental and emotional resources where they make the most difference in my life? Where is it the most effective for my, you know, perspective, the lens of perspective? And in that instance, it was very clear that my 15-year-old lens of perspective was very different than the 50 some odd year perspective of the teacher. And that was fine. That wasn't his life. That was my life. But I think to have a certain level of peace, and this is taking me, it is still a little bit to swallow because I see a lot of possibilities, but I have to find peace with the fact that I get to choose the top things and I have to let the rest kind of go until it's their moment. And their moment will come or it won't.
Yes, but
But
Shannon, replay this because you said, so the balance, success is the balance isn't even.
Mhm.
So I think I think what you're actually saying out loud, even though you referred to it almost as in the past, is actually already here.
It's in my, when I think about balance from a like a proprioception point of view in my own body, we used to do a lot of balance exercises in dance, and I still teach my clients that. And it's, I love things that create an unsteady surface, like a Bosu ball or a balancing pad or
Right.
something, whether you're up on your toes or something like that. And it's what, you know, tiny micro muscles all have to fire at once to keep yourself aligned. And so alignment for each of us with ourselves is going to be based on our own worldview and our priorities
Oh,
and things like
balance.
that. And so it's taking whatever the world comes at us, and then our brain and our muscles are working to keep that alignment with self, I guess is how I see it. But just taking like a physical example and making it internal.
And that's really cool because like it takes me back to another point, and this is not what I'm saying you are, but like when we see ourselves as mislabeling alliance with ourselves, but we're actually dipping our toe into the Y hole, and we're not, because we've mislabeled a little bit. Because you know, anyway, this is not real. It's just things that are coming to my head, and I always love hearing what you have to say because I really have to noodle on things. I
Oh,
love
thank
that
you.
word.
No, this is
Happy
it's
New
a fun
Year.
conversation because it helps us, I think, place, I went back to celebrating the wins, but it helps us place the value on the micro things, the little things. Is that's where the gold
Mm-hmm.
is. That's those
Right.
moments are what trains our brain for the long haul. You know, it's a, you know, a journey, and it's not just one big thing. You have to break it down into the little moment.
True. Blair has a seldom used, or at least to this point, not often used, mind model that applies to a lot of what you're saying, which is action versus activity. There are a lot of things you can choose to do, but are you actually taking actions that move you forward, or are you just busy?
I don't know that I've ever heard that one.
Blair, would you like
That's
to
fun.
expand on that?
Yeah,
Can
it's
you say
one.
it again, please?
Go ahead, Patty.
Oh, action versus activity. And I thought Blair could expand on that.
Oh, action versus activity. That was all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the mind model.
Okay, sorry. Let's see how big that is.
Well, it's the whole thing about busy work because you can do activity and it's a type of action, but is it effective? And so if you're being, active, is the activity that you're doing something that actually gets you and moves the needle forward? If it doesn't move the needle forward, Where are you? Well, are you just circling the drain or are you moving forward? And at some point, you got to call it and say, hold it. This activity is not moving moving me forward. I need to change something. So
Well,
that's basically it.
thank you. Brent, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this discussion. What is coming up for you?
Yeah, so with the success, I know I was with Jacqueline. It was, I believe it was, speaking as the many different points, like areas, multiple areas. I think Shannon may have hit on that as well. But not just like, so it looks different, what the desired results. But what I was getting towards when I was definition, it was people had hit on it, but it was more clearly is aligned with the definition, the mind model definition is what Blair had. It was just the activity, the action moving towards those desired results. Is it getting me closer and seeing those small wins and that like that's looking at that going, okay, boom, I got that. It's not like like Jacqueline before, different, and Tim, like different stages of my life. I had it labeled different. Like it was this some picture I had to reach somewhere, and that was it, and that was success. But I had things, and you know, it didn't like I had reached a point, and it didn't feel like it like that, like I had expected. I didn't have those feelings like, oh man, I'm gonna be in a great place, and this is gonna be fantastic, and it wasn't that way, and I'm getting stuck in a spot where you're like, man, this just doesn't, it's not working for me,
Mhm.
so. That's
Athletes,
so it
I
does
think.
change
Yeah,
throughout
I'm
your,
curious
throughout
from
that.
your perspective as an athlete,
Yeah.
because we hear about, Olympians and, highly trained people struggling with, is it enough? Have I succeeded? Is it a success if I don't win the medal? Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So from a point of view of an athlete, because you made it to a reasonably elite level,
Hmm.
um, playing
Yeah,
football.
yeah, there's definitely, you have your team sports, like you want to winning as a team, like if you're in team sports, winning is that measuring point, but you also have, it's not like, did you win, but it's, how did you do it? Like, how were you doing? Like, if you put everything you've got into, like, everything you had, and you put all the effort, and you were doing, everything was effective, you were making adjustments and moving forward, you weren't just destroying yourself or getting, you were just, if you lost, you were just beaten by somebody they were just better. But you put everything you had out there. That feeling is different than going out and losing something and you're like, man, I missed this. I didn't put everything I had into this point. I made several mistakes and the effort just wasn't there. So you get the two aspects where, you have a point where it's like, man, you didn't get what you wanted, but you don't feel, like you're down on yourself or beaten up. You're like, it's just I put everything I had out there and that's what was the outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
and I
you
think
don't do that, then you don't feel like that's when you feel like you're not up to par. You kind of start to judge yourself. You can get in. It's easy to get in those moments like, man, start beating yourself up for making a bunch of mistakes and not putting in the controllables the input that you can put in and not doing like 100% effort out there. Like effort's the basic one. If you're not putting everything you got out there, then yeah, it's easy to like, man, I don't know what I'm doing, and you start, you know, putting that pressure on yourself and beating yourself up and judging every little thing that you did instead of making the small adjustments, the little errors. You're like, okay, I just need to adjust here and make those small adjustments there, and then quickly move forward. It just compounds and it just keeps rolling like a big snowball, just going downhill, and it just
Yeah.
builds. So yeah.
Well, and I think to your point, Brent, it's interesting when you think about sports because sports is a team.
Hmm.
There's more than just a single player. And so getting back into the micro behaviors, if a team wins or a team loses, it's because of a bunch of different players, a bunch of
Hmm.
different behaviors that each player did, those micro behaviors. You may have one player who's top of his game doing everything he possibly can, like spot on and effective. And you may have another player that may not be at the top of his game
Hmm.
that particular night or whatever. but it's all those different behaviors from the different players that make up the ultimate, we won, we lost. And it's interesting, if the team loses, that person who was all in that night, may go down the Y hole and beat the crap out, oh my gosh, and na 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 na, and I wasn't there, and the team lost, and
Mhm.
so, but he was doing like he was on his top, he was on that night.
Yeah.
So to your point, it's just interesting how, we need to pay attention to our behaviors.
Mhm.
What are we putting forth? And it's not so much if the team wins or team loses, it's
Mhm.
how effective were you,
Yeah,
so
and that's that. Like it's each individual. If
yeah.
you're doing everything you can to move forward and improve, and then it comes together. As if you're in team sports, then that's all comes together because you can't have that if individuals it falls apart. If you got one that's doing a one that's not that inconsistency, you won't achieve what the result that you want as a team. And I've been a part of teams that were losing records. You only win a game or two, few games, and next year it's completely different. But for me, it was, man, I've improved each year to get to the point to play, to earn a spot to play and to earn a scholarship. So that way I didn't have to pay. So that was like, man, I'm busting my butt. This is what I got to do to get on the field. And that's what, even though we weren't doing, I didn't work out great as a team, but I was, for me as a player, I was like, okay, yeah, this went from last year to this year. I was able to get more playing time or, moved up and different spots on to input that resulted in me getting on the field. So
Yeah.
that's how that worked for me. And then it was injuries kind of derailed that. So those are things I can really work on myself. It just happened. So that can make it that can mess with your head too when you're in those spots because you have limited time. You only have you have so much a year, those years, and then you have things that derail that, and you're like, I'm losing that amount of time and don't have that effort to get back. So you got to build up in a smaller period to get to back up. So that can really push you down into a Y hole. If that happens multiple times, that can really make a difference. So.
Well, guys, this is a discussion I'd really like us to continue. Would you see value, Brett, in continuing this next week? The whole success and the habits and the micro
No, you mean
behaviors.
asking me? Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
And Shannon, would you see value in continuing this next week?
Oh, absolutely.
Jacqueline, how about you?
Yes. Yes. Sorry. I'm just running in from outside, taking the
Oh,
dogs
no worries,
in
no
and out.
worries.
I'm dog sitting for my brother.
Well, I think I'm going to pass this over then to Tim to wrap up, and then we'll continue this discussion next week.
Okay. All right. Well, for those of you who may be just joining us for, we are at the beginning of 2026. What we do at the end of each of these is a wrap up. And this is where we go around to everybody that's on. And I encourage those of you on YouTube who are watching to do your own, to make a comment and share. So what we do is we go around and we share what our biggest takeaway was and how the experience, not how, Patty trained or any individual person did tonight, but based on the value that you received. A number from 1 to 10, 1 being it was nah, 10 being that was an amazing night. I got so much value out of it. So just how you experienced tonight from 1 to 10. And then your biggest takeaway for tonight. That's what we do with the wrap up. And I was wondering if Jackie or Jacqueline, would you like to start us off with the wrap up tonight?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm running in and out. Actually, what comes to my mind is there seems to be a different approach. And moving forward, I'd like to see how that develops, if that even is happening, or maybe it's just my perspective. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to have a take on have another look. What do I give it tonight? Oh, tonight's a tricky one. 8.25.
Nice.
And I'm going to be taking a look at the rerun because I really need to go and spend time with my friend because we've only got 4 nights together and we've got 2 left. So I will take a look at what you guys have to say because usually most of the stuff that comes out and a lot of my learning occurs when everybody's wrapping up, and it just kind of reminds me, or it kind of puts it back in there again, or it makes things shift. So I'll be watching that on the rerun.
Love it. Well, thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
tonight. Yeah. Thank you, Jacqueline, for sharing and for your input tonight. Enjoy. Leslie had to pop off early tonight. He mentioned that he was having a hard time staying awake. Must have had a really long day. But I wanted to share, he had put in the comments that he was gaining so much positive knowledge from tonight, a lot that he wanted to noodle on. He says thanks, and it was a 9 for Leslie tonight. So I just wanted to mention that. Brent, would you like to wrap up?
Yeah, so I mean the discussion was fantastic about success and seeing well, it's a little small today, so we each had our perspective on success and what it was like we've gone through or what we're doing and how it's evolved. Like Tim, you had said how it has evolved till now. And I think one of the takeaways, the biggest one for me is really small, the tiny micro behaviors. Like sometimes I see micro behaviors like, oh, it could be broken down to a little bit smaller, just a little bit smaller steps to make that movement, just to, like Blair was saying, it was an example, like if you have notebook, you could just place it somewhere or open up the book, not like journal to journal, just open the page and start writing. It's, hey, open up the book and build that habit of opening the book. And then you can, if that's what it takes for you to get to that point, break it down even smaller steps where you can slowly build that. So that was something that I could see that it's very really helpful. Also, but and a bigger picture, like I can do small habits, but be breaking them down a little bit smaller, um, to make those changes if necessary. That's what I need to do. So I give it an 8.5 for me tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Brent. And yeah, that's a great reminder to, it's interesting because we broke it down into small chunks.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is usually we can break it down even more. And
Mm-hmm.
noticing, those opportunities to break it down, I think is, yeah, it's very important. So thank you, Brent. Appreciate you. Shannon, would you like to wrap up?
Sure. It's interesting because I just throughout the course of this reflecting on the different relationships I've had with the word success. And, when you're younger, there is a very clear sort of black and white definition of it that you're given and, expected to live up to and contribute to society and fill that space with something. And then you kind of grow into yourself and it's the more we talked about it tonight, it takes that slightly sour taste of what the world thinks success is, because that's so big in general, and making it more specific and realizing that using the tools that we have to apply that to each of our own situations. And when Brent was talking about the context within an athletic world and reflecting on his own performance of the team, maybe it was a good game, equal match, things of that nature, it brought self-other and situation to mind. And there are always situations that, come out of nowhere. And what of those can I control? And so how does self-other situation and success, how can I bring those two together and use SOS to influence my own definition of success so that I'm setting myself up for success? It's teeing myself up mentally for that word to actually mean something, as opposed to, I can look back and so many times I would start the year and the chunks of life that they teach you to pay attention to when you're younger. And I'm like, okay, my life doesn't look like this. My life doesn't look like this. My life doesn't look like this. And you're trying to measure up to some imaginary standard because that's what someone told you success was. And it's really gratifying to bring that in and to be reminded of what it looks like to use these tools in that context, because there's so many more gratifying layers to discussing it and celebrating it and living in it along the way when you can own it for yourself. And what does that look like for me? And what does that look like, on a day-to-day basis? So it was really rich. And Brent, I loved that last section of sharing that you had. That was great. The two definitions I really enjoyed as well. And Becky, your question, what does it do to our world when we have misnamed and labeled success? That was a great one to noodle on as well. So lots of awesome questions. That's a 9 for me tonight. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon. And thank you for the reminder. Yeah, I think it is important for us. And we usually realize this as we get older, that comparing ourselves to others, and it doesn't, we find ourselves more often than not going down the Y hole when we start comparing ourselves to what the world perceives as success, or what another's success is for them. Or so yeah, paying attention to, what is success for us, and paying attention to what we're doing. And these skills of the mind models are helpful, so helpful at identifying those behaviors and those things for ourselves, and noticing those small wins for ourselves. So such a great reminder. Thank you. Becky, would you like to wrap up? Wrapped up. Tongue tied.
Yes. 8.75 for me tonight. Success has historically been a very big thing that seemed always out of reach. It was like that arrival spot in some area that's magically your life looks a certain way. To your point, Shannon, like a lot of times we see that. You said something, Shannon, that I think is very interesting. Achieve success, get success, have success, but you said live in success.
Mm.
And I love that idea of living in success, meaning what I got from that is that you're noticing what you're doing, you're noticing your effort, you're noticing and giving credence to the fact that you attempted something, you tested something, and that in and of itself is successful living. And so I think that it would be interesting to consider how reframing it from the perspective of achieving a thing versus living in a thing. And how might that impact our world and the way that we interface and evaluate more fair and balanced versus did I get it or did I not? Yes or no? What level of success, what level of achievement, what level of effort was effective for me, and how much closer am I to what I actually am working towards? Because very rarely in life do we, quote, arrive at the picture looks exactly like we thought it was going to be. There's elements, and can we show gratitude for the journey and the successes, right? Those micro things that we're doing, building those effective habits. So thank you, you guys, for your contribution. The conversation was wonderful tonight.
Thank you. And for me, there it was. I'm writing this down, living in success. I love that. I didn't catch that when Shannon said it, but Becky brought that up, and that's, oh wow, that's huge. Actually living in the success. And I think about what I shared earlier with, at the moment in my life before meeting Blair, I was, successful, and at the time that was success for me. And then I met Blair, I met the My Models, and I had an opportunity to take that success to the next level. And so tonight for me, it's the idea of the evolution of success. It's really about, success is in this area at one point, and then it can go to the next level and the next level, or to the point that was brought up earlier. And I think it was Jacqueline that brought it up, was, different areas of our life.
Exactly.
So there's so many different areas of our lives, and in some areas of our lives we may feel successful, and others not so much. And so there's areas to improve, and areas to notice those micro behaviors, so that then we can become more successful in that area if we don't feel success already there. And it's an evolution. And then living in success. So those, noticing those micros is the idea of living in success. So that's my light bulb for tonight, was that statement right there. And with that, it's a 9.5 for me. Patty,
Yeah,
would you like to wrap up?
sure. One of the things that Shannon brought out was her teacher not considering that her budget was realistic. And that brings up the idea that when we're looking at the issue of success, are we being reasonable with ourselves? Are we being reasonable with things, or realistic? Are we looking at something as an ideal, looking at something that we're chasing that will never be enough? And that chasing and never enough can be sort of the judgmental side of success, and the idea of, have we got it? Did we achieve it? How do we know if we're there? Have we arrived? All of those things are really very judgmental things that really do tip us over the edge of the why hole, as Blair was talking about earlier. And so looking at our own lives and being content with what's reasonable for us, not that we put a lid on things and say, oh, I'll never be able to do that because I'm not that person or I'm not that good, but to look at ourselves and say, okay, what can I do? What do I want to build on? What does my foundation look like? Where am I going to go with this? Is this going to hold me? Am I building in a direction that I want to go? And looking at those pieces, those are reasonable things to look at, and they're reasonable things to pursue. And that gets into more of that functional application of success. Yes, Jacqueline, what might I do? And what might I do differently? What might I stop doing? There are so many questions that we can go for. So for me, it was a 9 tonight. Thank you, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. And I think that's such a great point, and one that I hear so many people, I couldn't do that, or I can't do that, or and they cut their legs right from underneath them before they even take an action or even
Right.
attempt something.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at the reasonability, looking at, and actually taking an action on something, how, it comes back to that, how do you know until you actually do something? People surprise themselves when they actually take action on something and test. They start to see those little micro wins, and it builds and it builds. And before you know it, what they thought they couldn't do, they can. And so, yeah, it's about being reasonable, fair and balanced evaluation, and actually testing stuff. So, such a great point, Patty. Thank you. Blair, would you like to wrap up?
Thank you. Yes. I think in the next 5 years, our personal definitions of success are going to change a lot. Mostly because of the world and the amount that's changing in the world. I know for myself that I shared before we started recording and getting on here live and broadcasting this. I was sharing how I was building a website. And I think I mentioned that too during this call. But I couldn't have done that 2 years ago. Now I can do it easily in a day. So being willing to test those small things and open up and testing to find out what's possible keeps a person relevant. So these are testable things in spite of the fact that we may not know, but we've got legs, we've got assistance, we've got capacity to test. Yeah, like the world is changing so freaking fast. It's unbelievable. And we need tools. We need the mind models to help us manage the speed of change. And the only way that I know how to do that effectively, identifiably, repeatably, and duplicatably is when we look at it through the lens of mind models, because mind models are always testable. And we can always test it and see, is this effective or not for me? You may or may not like it, but you can test it. And if it works, maybe you might want to consider doing more of that. Anyway, that's sort of me, and that's a direction that I would consider that we could go in. Many directions next week. To me, it's a 9. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Blair. That's such a great point. I mean, the mind models give us those frameworks to be able to test and evaluate, and it gives us data as to where we are so that we can then make a choice, for effective or ineffective, and we learn from the ineffective things as well. So, and with the world changing so rapidly, the mind models are needed to help people to process effectively, and they're not taught. And a lot of times, and that's what, and to put a plug in here for Blair's profiling session, a lot of times we can't see our own blind spots. We can't see the areas that we may be slipping into judgment, or we may be slipping down the Y hole. And so Blair, what he does and what he's built with these mind models is listening to people's language and hearing what actions they've taken and being able to use the mind models to evaluate it and to be able to shine a flashlight, if you will, on those certain blind spots and things that we may not see ourselves. And so it's extremely helpful to go through and have a profiling session and see those and then learn the mind models themselves. That way, moving forward, you can evaluate and it makes you so much more effective. So, such great stuff. And thank you, Blair.
You're welcome.
With
I just
that,
want to build on one last thing. Like,
please.
the speed of change.
Mhm.
I just was listening to the Electric Viking is his handle on YouTube today. And he was, I believe it was, his announcement was repeating an announcement of Donut Labs announcing that they've got a solid battery, not a liquid, not like a solid state battery that charges in 5 minutes and has a 400 watt hour per kilogram, which is staggeringly high, generally 25 to 45% higher than most batteries, and with a recharge time of 5 minutes, with a 100,000 cycle repeat. In other words, recharging that thing, you're not going to need another battery in your lifetime when you buy that, unless you live beyond 100 years. And it's crazy fast. It's this breakthrough. If all of that is true, big if, but that's where we're heading, which means when we're above 350 watt hours, we can have airplanes flying on electricity. This is now 400. I mean, this is staggering stuff. And life will change, and we need to adapt. And I don't know a better set of skills to help us adapt and change our own lives, change how we think, because how we think is everything, absolutely everything. Anyway, that's it for me.
Well, the other interesting thing, thought that came up for me while you were sharing, Blair, is, with success. We've been talking about success tonight. Um, you know, with the speed of change, with AI,
Yeah.
with technology advancing so much, the human actually becomes almost backseat. And so, with that, I think there's going to be even more of a need for these skills to be out there. That way, people can evaluate effectively. They can see those micro behaviors that they're actually doing. They build the self-confidence in a world that is changing so fast that that gets lost.
Yeah.
It's going to be needed even more. So,
Yes.
okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that we're going to continue the conversation around success. And with that, I'm going to pass the torch to my wife to take us out for tonight.
All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out with us for the last 90 minutes. Again, tonight's episode is about successful micro behaviors. And as been shared, it is a very important thing for us to start to identify in our own worlds so that we can start to feel more aligned and more successful. And how to do that, as we've chatted about, is with the mind models and different ones. So we covered just a tiny little bit tonight. We're going to go deeper, it sounds like. But I'd highly encourage you all, if you have not got your hands on Blair's study guide, it's an opportunity for you to get all historical and ongoing notes from the Blair Dunkley experience from episode 318 and moving forward. And the reason that Blair has done this is because we can only cover a little bit, and we do our best to make sure that those on the call with us on Zoom have an opportunity to experience the conversation, because mind models are definitely experiential. So if you want to go deeper, if you want to have reference material, you want to be able to have access to the videos that Blair shared at the beginning, make sure you go to blairdunkley.com/BDE Insider Notes. You have an opportunity to invest in yourself with mind models for $25 a month or $300 a year. Extremely well worth it for you if you want to elevate your life and find more success, live in more success as we discussed tonight. Make sure you do so if you have not yet. Also, Blair has 2 current books on Amazon, Ultimate Mind Hacking and Phobia Freedom Formula. You can Google them or search by name or Blair Dunkley and it will pull up those. And he's also working on a new book that's coming out soon. More details will be coming, so stay tuned with us here. If you'd like to join us and be on live and be able to be part of the conversation, ask your questions, be able to contribute, please go to https://go.rewiringthemind.com/weekly webinar, and then you can join us here. We'd love to have you on and join us here live. And we're here every single Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we look forward to chatting with you more next week, and have a wonderful rest of your night or day, wherever it is you're tuning in from. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.